So what we are talking about, quickly, before we go to Karen, probably now that she's here, Leah, go to her. The government's asked Oranga Tamariki to review contracts for community service providers. The minister, of course, is Karen Chhour. She's pushing back on criticism of changes affecting frontline service providers. She says the agency is simply being asked to focus on core services. Some social services, however, say they hadn't been adequately consulted and the frontline will be adversely affected. And we've found the minister. Karen, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Leah. Sorry about that.
All good, you know, phones and everything. Karen, look, it is great to have you on the show again. I appreciate you calling in. You asked OT to properly assess hundreds of contracts with external service providers, which you say is valued at more than $500 million. Firstly, is that a lot of contracts? Hundreds? Was that normal, or is that part of the blowout of the last government?
Oh, we contract to about 1,000 different contracts. So this is just reviewing contracts that were due to roll over at this stage of the year. There are still more contracts to come. So this is just really the first round. There's still about another 6% to go throughout the year. But I wanted to make sure that the money we're spending is actually going towards young people and towards making sure that young people in the care of Oranga Tamariki are getting the services that they need.
You've mentioned there was, in some parts, underutilisation of spend. Can you explain what you meant by that?
So what happens is Oranga Tamariki in the past has been funding contracts at 100%. And then when the contract rolls over, sometimes not all the deliverables have happened. And so what has happened is they've been allowed to keep that money in the past. But what I've said is, no, if you haven't delivered the service, we want that money back.
Right. And have they given the money back, the ones that you've asked for?
We're still going through the process with a few,
Right.
But at the moment we've managed to claw back $22 million,
Wow.
and we're expecting more to come.
Also, was there duplication of services in some places?
Yeah, absolutely, and we need to learn that environments change, needs change in communities, and we have to be able to pivot with that. So some communities, those services may not necessarily be providing what is needed in that community. We may need a different kind of service that isn't being delivered. So Oranga Tamariki, I have asked to look into those areas, duplication, underutilisation, and actually what services are needed in particular areas that are lacking, and redistribute that funding that we've managed to claw back into those spaces.
What do you say about the accusations from some that say the frontline services will be affected? Is that true?
So some agencies may have to lower their frontline staff numbers because they have had their contracts lowered, but that's based on the information that we've received from them and the services that they've provided over the last year. And so we've just readjusted their contracts to that level. And then we will redistribute that money into another organisation that may have lacked funding that needed more. So, yes, some agencies may be losing some frontline staff, but other agencies will be gaining them.
All right. So you're simply, so the funding, you're funding those that do have the work and are doing the work, and that those that don't, maybe,
and I just would also like to add that we can't just keep adding money into a budget without expecting outcomes and deliveries, and actually making sure that it's going where it's needed. I have a duty to the young people in the care of Oranga Tamariki and who come to the attention of Oranga Tamariki. I don't have a duty to keep providers' doors open.
And with that, Karen, you've instructed the agency to carry out public reporting on key performance indicators. How often will they have to do that?
So that's a quarterly report that will come to me in those 5 areas that I think are crucial, that we know that information throughout the year, and I'll also be making that public. because I think there does have to be some kind of transparency and accountability when it comes to Oranga Tamariki. We need to gain back the trust of the public to see that we are improving and we are putting the safety and best interests of kids at the front of our decision making.